Have you ever wondered what happens when an artist at the very top of her game suddenly vanishes right before her biggest moment? For years, millions of listeners fell head over heels for a voice that sounded like it belonged in a smoky jazz club from 80 years ago. But behind the hypnotic melodies, the viral videos, and that famous barefoot stage presence, a storm was brewing far away from the cameras. Behind closed doors, legal threats were quietly mounting, network executives were demanding answers, and an intense battle for creative freedom was being fought out of sight. Now, after months of quiet speculation and hidden industry tensions, a brand new project has finally come to light. And the real story behind this return is darker, deeper, and far more chaotic than anyone could have guessed. From the very moment the world first laid eyes on her, she wasn't treated like a normal kid. Winning major talent shows and captivating millions across global platforms made her an overnight international sensation while she was still in elementary school. People were utterly mesmerized by a young girl commanding Billie Holiday classics with a gravelly, soulful rasp that all human logic. But being labeled a child prodigy is a double-edged sword that few young performers survive intact. Industry executives didn't just see a brilliant natural artist, they saw a lucrative, highly profitable nostalgia machine. Corporate labels began circling with massive contracts, and executives wanted to lock her into a vintage retro box forever. They wanted the throwback dresses, the classic jazz covers, and the innocent prodigy narrative that guaranteed easy money. Yet as she grew older, the psychological toll of being an endless jukebox for other people's memories began to weigh heavily on her shoulders. She was writing her own dark, emotional poetry in secret, but major label executives brushed it aside, insisting that the paying audience only wanted the retro classics. She was effectively trapped in a golden cage, forced to perform a character that no longer felt real. As the immense pressure kept building up behind the scenes, something eventually had to break, and what happened next would shock everyone who thought they knew her. Early in 2025, everything seemed primed for the ultimate grand comeback stage. She was officially announced as one of the headlining acts for Norway's prestigious national showcase, Grand. The high-profile event was supposed to be a monumental victory lap, broadcasting to millions of viewers across Europe and marking her long-awaited transition into mainstream global dominance. Television networks spent tens of thousands of dollars constructing custom stage sets, designing elaborate lighting setups, and fitting expensive designer wardrobes. Devoted fans from all across the globe booked flights and hotel rooms just to witness her performance live in the arena. But then, with only days left before the live broadcast was scheduled to hit television screens, the entire production was suddenly thrown into complete chaos. Her name was abruptly scrubbed from the official lineup, without a clear explanation from her management. Television executives were left completely furious, frantically scrambling to rework production schedules while wild speculation spread like wildfire across music forums online. Initial public statements put out by representatives cited severe weather disruptions and natural disasters in Los Angeles that supposedly prevented her travel. But behind the scenes, network brass weren't buying that story for a second. Public reports soon leaked that the national broadcaster was preparing legal demands, insisting on over $11,000 in immediate financial reimbursements for wasted production expenses and broken performance agreements. But that wasn't the whole story. When the official public narrative started crumbling, internal legal documents began finding their way into industry headlines. It turns out that those polite excuses about severe weather were merely a diplomatic cover for a much darker situation unfolding entirely out of public view. Confidential legal correspondence between her team and the television network revealed that severe personal safety concerns and active security threats were the real triggers for her sudden departure. Reports surfaced hinting that extreme personal stalkers and frightening security breaches had compromised her safety in the critical days leading up to the scheduled broadcast. Her team argued forcefully that forcing a young female artist into a high-profile live arena under active safety threats was completely unacceptable, regardless of how much money was on the line. Furthermore, her legal representatives hit back hard against the broadcaster's financial claims, asserting that no legally binding performance contract had ever been finalized or signed in the first place. The television network had rushed ahead with expensive stage preparations based on verbal talks, fully expecting her to fall in line once the spotlight was turned on. For months, a bitter standoff raged behind closed doors, with heavy financial accusations and the threat of a high-stakes lawsuit hanging in the balance, until the broadcaster quietly dropped all financial demands to avoid a messy public trial in open court. And what she did right after leaving that legal nightmare behind changed everything. Most artists in her position would have caved to the massive corporate pressure, swallowed their pride, or signed a quick label deal just to keep their names in the news. Instead, she pulled off one of the boldest power moves a young independent musician could possibly make in the modern era. She severed ties with major corporate intermediaries, walking away from standard label deals that demanded complete control over her image, royalties, and release schedule. Working side by side with her grandmother, and operating under her family's independent banner, LLC, she took complete ownership of her artistic destiny. This wasn't just a simple business choice about making music on her own terms, it was a matter of professional and personal survival. By completely removing middleman executives and corporate handlers, she built an ironclad shield around her artistic vision. No more corporate suits telling her what songs she was allowed to record, no more forced image overhauls designed by marketing committees, and no more predatory contracts taking away her hard-earned masters. She chose total independence, fully aware that taking the path outside the traditional mainstream corporate machine meant sacrificing easy radio push and corporate financial backing. But staying independent meant she had to prove her true value through the music alone. That intense struggle for personal control and emotional survival became the raw fuel for her brand new 12-track album, Secret of Love. The moment you press play on the opening track, Still Standing, you immediately realize this isn't the soft, polite jazz prodigy of the past. The heavy, driving instrumentation and soaring, defiant vocal delivery serve as a direct, unapologetic message to every executive who ever tried to put her in a box or quiet her voice. As the album progresses through atmospheric tracks like When It's Gone, Memories, and Bel Air, the tone turns hauntingly intimate. The standout track Me dives headfirst into the profound pain of toxic relationships, broken promises, and severe emotional manipulation. It delivers lyrics that feel far less like polished commercial pop and much more like a private diary entry written in total isolation. Longtime fans listening closely have picked up on subtle, recurring references to industry exploitation, silent heartbreaks, and the heavy burden of growing up in front of a cold public audience. Every single track on the album feels like a vital piece of a larger narrative puzzle, constructing a powerful story about surviving psychological manipulation and reclaiming one's life against steep odds. She isn't just singing catchy melodies to chase streaming trends, she is processing deep personal battles in real time for the entire world to hear. And the way her voice has evolved across these new tracks left vocal coaches completely speechless. If you listen back to her early childhood recordings alongside these new master tracks, the shift in her vocal delivery is nothing short of breathtaking. Early in her career, musical critics marveled at her astonishing ability to mimic legendary vocalists from the past, though many quietly question whether a young kid could truly understand the deep pain and loss behind those classic songs. On Secret of Love, all lingering doubts are completely obliterated once and for all. Her tone has transformed from a precocious impression into a mature, deeply resonant force filled with authentic, lived-in human emotion. She effortlessly glides between velvety, delicate low notes and explosive, emotionally charged belts that convey raw, unfiltered grief. There are no heavy vocal tuning effects or hyper-sanitized pop production tricks masking her performance here. The production deliberately allows her natural rasp, subtle breaths, and human imperfections to take center stage, giving the entire 12-track record a cinematic, deeply atmospheric quality. It is an unmistakable, bold declaration that she has officially the child prodigy label forever, stepping fully into her power as a serious, world-class singer-songwriter who owns every single note she sings. Yet despite this massive creative triumph, quiet rumors continue to swirl about what lies ahead for her career. Stepping outside the major label ecosystem brings unmatched creative freedom, but it also carries massive financial and career risks that can sink even the most talented performers. Without the multi-million-dollar marketing engines and international promotional budgets of corporate label giants backing her, every single release relies entirely on the genuine loyalty of her fan base. Mainstream radio airplay and highly coveted playlist placements are notoriously difficult to secure when an artist refuses to play ball with major industry gatekeepers. Industry insiders have openly questioned whether a tightly knit family operation can sustain this level of global momentum against well-funded music conglomerates that control mainstream media channels. Gossip channels and online commentators have even raised questions about whether the intense mental workload, endless legal battles, and constant pressure might push her toward another sudden public hiatus or career vanishing act. But those who follow her journey closely insist that she has never been more focused, grounded, or musically energized than she is right now. She chose artistic integrity, personal safety, and mental peace over quick corporate fame and easy industry money. She proved that a true artist doesn't need a corporate boardroom full of executives to create timeless, deeply moving art that resonates with millions of listeners across the globe. Her extraordinary transition from a barefoot child sensation to a completely independent artistic powerhouse is proof that genuine talent cannot be controlled, manufactured, or quieted by corporate demands. She faced immense industry pressure, stood up against massive legal threats from major television networks, and made the courageous decision to prioritize her own mental health and creative independence over a pre-packaged pop star career. Secret of Love is far more than just a brand new collection of impressive songs. It is a triumphant, unfiltered declaration of independence from an artist who flatly refused to let the music industry break her spirit or define her worth. As she continues to forge her own unique path on her own strict terms, one undeniable truth remains crystal clear above all the noise. In a music industry obsessed with short-term viral trends, corporate compliance, and total control, holding onto your own authentic voice is the ultimate form of victory.